Hello everyone and welcome to the program Construction Tech. This is a program that brings to property owners and property users easiest remedies to maintain your homes, to manage your homes, to help you save lives, save time, save money. And we've been talking about recovering from the flood. You can connect with us on our social media handles on Facebook at Construction Tech International, on Instagram at construct_tech, and on YouTube at Property Doctor NG, on Twitter at Property Doc NG. You can also call us on 0903-123-9999. We are talking about recovering from the flood. The flood this year, 2022, has been so devastating, and a lot of people lost their lives, their properties, and it has never been this bad. So we have a professional in the studio today. He's going to talk to us about how to recover from the flood and what to look out for and how to see what to do to prevent the flood from occurring again. I mean, having the effect of the flood occurring in our house. You know, flooding is a natural disaster, but what are the things we need to do to put everyone in check and to make sure that we are safe? You know, we have the aged ones, we have the young ones at home. We need to do something and stop having the same problem, because as we talked about it last week, we realized that we've been having these problems for so many years. I can remember for almost 10 years we've been having this flood. We talked about the causes of the flood, how it can be from excessive rainfall, or maybe there's a dam that is broken, or snow has melted, but we don't have that here in Nigeria, and other measures. We also looked at how to manage our environment. But today, we have a special person in the house. He's a professional, he's a builder. His name is Builder Peter Ramsey. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Builder Peter Ramsey is the chairman of the Research and Development Committee FCT chapter of NIOB. NIOB means Nigeria Institute of Building, and is representing the COBON here today. And COBON is the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria. You see, it's not just an ordinary person. This is an experienced person. He's vast in construction, and I know I've spoke to him before the program started, and I know if you listen and if you stay tuned, you're going to learn a lot from him. And not only you, I'm sure the whole country, we are going to learn a lot from him today in just this few minutes. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
So what do you think causes this flood in Nigeria? You know, it's not the same like other places. Nigeria has a peculiar issue at hand.
Well, yes. The truth of the matter is, you ask me, the causes of flooding in Nigeria may not differ from what you may have in other places.
Okay.
There is one thing that is common knowledge now that people hear, but people do not know the implications of this thing, and this is global warming.
Global warming.
Now, when you talk about global warming, people wonder, how do you connect global warming to flooding? Well, it connects a lot.
You know, already here, weather is generally hot.
Yes.
And if you have global warming, is it part of the problem we're facing here?
It is part of the problem. Why? Is because the global warming elevates the temperature. It keeps going higher.
Okay.
Now, if you know water, there's something they call water vaporizes.
Yes.
When subjected to heat.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the higher the temperature, you understand, the more the likelihood of the volume of water. You see, water in the whole earth, if you know hydrology, you know that water on earth is the same volume, but it changes from one location to the other.
Okay.
So when you attract more water to a location that is beyond the capacity of that place to carry, you have a problem of flooding. So how does global warming play a part? An elevated ambient temperature causes more vaporization, because these waters are the waters that are within water bodies all around.
Okay.
Seas, oceans,
rivers, streams,
and
lakes, and all that.
They go up. You might have a case where, because of the warming, the higher temperature, you have a larger volume in the atmosphere than used to be at the temperature that had been. And when those things, they condense and they want to come back, you have a larger volume of water coming back than you've ever experienced. That's part of global warming. how
Okay.
it could cause
Excessive rainfall
Yes, excessive rainfall that can result into the flooding that we see.
that we're seeing.
Of course, the story of Lagdo Dam and all that is common knowledge, and most Nigerians know that there's a dam somewhere in the Cameroons. When they open it, the volume of water that the environment sees is beyond the capacity, beyond saturation point.
Okay.
So all those things, when you add them together, they come and you get a situation of flooding.
Flooding.
Like this.
Okay, this flooding that affected us in Nigeria during this year 2022 has been so much, and you find out that a lot of people lost their properties and they lost their houses. Is there something that should have been done, maybe by the government or maybe any agency, to prevent this flooding?
Yeah. You see,
As you know, you're representing Coburn.
Yes.
Now we're looking at our buildings now.
Yes.
Okay.
You see, when you talk of prevention, prevention means stopping it from something from happening, ab initio.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk of prevention from the context of the effects of excess water coming, become flood, from devastating us, yes, we can prevent it. But when you talk of prevention from the perspective of flooding, is a phenomenon that is natural, so to say.
Okay.
Right? Because you can't stop rains from falling. So when you talk of preventing the natural forces, that one may not be within your control.
We will not be able to prevent the rainfall.
Yes, but
Well, we
the
can
effect of the rainfall, the devastation can be prevented. Yes, it can.
Okay, so how do you think we can prevent
Yes,
that?
you see, most times before the rain starts, you begin to hear, as a matter of fact, we should be watchful to hear forecasts of weather. We think those things, they just come for nothing's sake. No. People should take attention to learn what are the implications when they tell you this weather forecast. Because even for this year, if you are attentive, you will recall that it had been in the media that there is going to be witness a large scale rainfall this year. How did they know it? We have experts to do that.
To do that.
All right? Then when the rains are coming, you begin to hear prevention plans being proclaimed, whether through the media. Clean your waterways, clean your gutters, desilt your drainages, and so on and so forth. People think that these things, they don't matter, but they do. All right? So, but I don't want to even look at it from there. Let me look at prevention from lessons we are learning from what is happening and what we ought to do in future. Many a times when developers want to develop, they look at the value of land. They look at all the approvals they need to get in order for them to put up a befitting structure, which is good.
Okay.
Now lessons we are learning is that you should also do a little study to know the fraud-prone status of that location you want to build, especially.
Who would do that for you? A land surveyor or?
There are agencies of government. Ordinarily, for instance, in FCT here, if you go to development control, I'm sure they can tell you that this area is flood prone. There are areas where, for instance, we had flooding. You will find out that development control officers are going to mark the houses not to be built there. Why? They are informed. Now, especially when you are buying a plot around an area that has water bodies. You have a river around, you have streams around, you would want to do a check. It may not necessarily be that you must not build around there, but probably there is a level. If you go down to South, I've done some projects there. I know that their foundation, if you are building properly, there are levels that the foundation must reach. When you go there, one place I did in the South, the road has a road level. Before that road level was established, they have done a lot of research. They know that, okay, the volume of water we'll expect here will not go above this level. And so they established a road level. And they told all of us building around there that please don't build your foundation, all right? Don't build your foundation below the road levels. They give you that advice. Don't build below the road levels. Why? They know what to expect. But you see, people ignore that. Then you see a road level very high, you see the building level quite low. When the flood, when water comes, people expect nothing will happen. Let's pray about it. All right? Now, if it happens like we're seeing, what happens? You find out that the water rises to levels that are unprecedented and your buildings are submerged.
Okay.
So, talking about prevention, we should be careful about where we build. We should want to probe to know whether these areas are flood
prone
plains.
Okay.
All right. There's no prevention or safety you can take that is more than that. Because when the flood comes and devastates you, any safety measures you are taking is an aftermath.
Okay. You know, we've talked about professionals, having to engage professionals all the time.
Yes.
We need to talk to our professionals if you want to buy a house and if you want to build. Sometimes you see the land, like he has just told us now, that it could be cheaper. A lot of people want to buy that kind of land. And another thing is that if you get a builder or get other professionals also to build for you, find out that you will not build below the road level. Because if you build below the road level, that means everything coming out from the road is coming to your place because on the lower plane and it gets into your house. And now you know that with this flood, a lot of rivers and gutters and the roads, most of the houses are definitely contaminated because they brought in all these things to the house. So you find out that we're expecting us to prevent people from getting diseases. Now, sir, you know that most of these houses have been flooded.
Yes.
The electrical situation in the house, the plumbing, how do you think we can manage them relating to buildings? Now that they've seen this kind of problem, what do you think they need to do concerning this water retention
it is very
areas?
possible that if the building was well built,
okay,
the devastation of the flood might have little to do with maybe the services items, except probably the fittings.
The fittings?
Fittings are the lamps you see. If it's mechanical fittings, for instance, they are the toilet seats, the wash hand basin, the kitchen sink and all that. Those are the fittings for plumbing. The fittings for electrical are usually the lamps, the sockets, the switches. Those are the fittings you see.
Yeah.
But before you see those fittings, there are conduits within the building, inside, embedded in the walls, through which the cables are run for electrical works, or the water is supplied. It's supplied through a network of pipes to come to that fitting, whether it's the wash hand basin or it is toilet bowl or whatever. All right?
Yeah.
So those ones if the building is well built, should usually be secured inside
the building.
And so to that extent, I would say the effect ought to be minimal. The effect should be more on the building envelope, which is the block work, the concrete work, and so on and so forth. And you see, the problem we have is that people don't even build to standards. You will find somebody, he has gone and built on a floodplain, and he built without design. When they say, get professionals to design for you, you think it's a joke. When these things happen, you now find out that you are penny wise, pound foolish.
No,
right?
cover wise, naira foolish.
Cover wise, naira
foolish.
All right? Because if the thing had been properly designed and properly built, I can assure you the effect of the flood will be minimal.
But you know the walls, maybe they are
yes, I was
water.
Coming to that.
Okay.
That's why I said the major thing that may be affected might be the envelope. Building envelopes have to do with either the walls and so on and so forth, which predominantly we do with concrete blocks and mortar and concrete to some extent. Of course, we have concrete pillars and all that within. Now again, if the concrete thing is done properly, yes, you'll find a structural designer will tell you that before he designs, unfortunately, design probably would not forecast that flooding will come and hold it, because there is a design that can be done to be built inside water for concrete work.
Yes.
that the concrete cover and all that, and even the concrete type mix would resist the ingress of water and the devastation. But if a design is done substantially well and it is well built, the effect will be limited because there is a number of hours that concrete will be able to resist the water. If the building is properly done, all right, there is a number of time that it can hold on to. You see, concrete itself and even concrete, cementitious materials, they benefit from water to an extent. Because when you see, if you go to block industry, you see them cast block and pour water. What do you think? They are curing
the blocks.
They cure them so that these things will get to, you know, a level where the strength will be enhanced.
Okay, sir, but if you look at the picture on the screen right now, you see that some of these houses are submerged in water.
Totally.
And not only that is submerged in water, but you see that the gutters, everything has entered into the house.
That looks to me like an area that is lying in floodplain. That looked to me that like areas that we ought not to be building around those places at all.
So do you think everybody in those areas should be evacuated totally?
Eventually, there should be level of government coming in because government have to, already people have been displaced. Yeah. And with this displacement, government have to come with initiatives to help these people to relocate to other places. If the right thing may be done, that looks to me like a floodplain, like an area. If you had underestimated...
That's the total area.
Yes. If you had underestimated the probability of that kind of thing happening, you know that you have done wrong. There's no guarantee that that kind of thing will not happen tomorrow again. So if you want to say what is the comprehensive measure that ought to be taken around such a place, I'll tell you, look, evacuate the entire environment, get them to higher levels, and look for open layouts in other places and let these people move.
Would you think they will be compensated? Or
obviously, they ought to be.
Who's going to compensate them? The government?
There are agencies of government. We have NEMA, we have SEMA, you know, in states. You have, of course, the state governments. We have Ministry of Environment, Humanitarian Affairs, and so on and so forth. I want to believe that sometimes these things are political. That's why you see when something happens like this, a governor runs to probably the schedule minister or so on and so forth, or to the presidency direct and request for assistance. So obviously these are happening at a magnitude that state governments will not have the resources.
Now, is there anything that the government can do to prevent this in future? That's
what we're saying, yeah. Probably a good census of areas that are prone to this kind of flooding ought to go on. I want to believe that in the 90 days plan or the actions of the ministers in response to the directive of Mr. President to come up with a plan within 90 days for prevention of flooding. I want to believe that one of their recommendations should be a census of flood-prone areas. And unfortunately, you find out that such areas are built up already. And not only are they built up, you mostly find out that they belong to the lower cadre of low-income builders who will go and not build buildings to standard.
Exactly.
The high-income people who can afford such things that will build houses that may be able to survive the effect of that flooding for some time, you may not find their houses in such locations.
But there's some story buildings I saw there.
Yes, well, probably. I said you may not. You may have minimum of them. You will not have in an entire... Even I heard of a big political figure in Oyo State. They said when he was there, he chose to go and stay with the masses where they are. And so whenever you want to get him, you must come through them. All right? So, of course, there will definitely be some such buildings within the environment. But how many, even the one you are seeing, the fact that you just saw a high rise does not mean that it was built to standards.
Wow.
All right? So I think one of the things that government should begin to do now is to do a comprehensive census of flood-prone, and particularly now that we have other issues that can exacerbate flooding, like the global warming we have spoken about, and so on and so forth. Flood-prone areas, and then come up with measures, very comprehensive, to ensure that such areas are not built upon. That's the reason why you have development control departments in FCT and similar agencies in state governments.
All right. This is the much we can take today, viewers. You can see that we have a lot, and we still have a lot of questions, but he's quite a busy person, and I cannot keep him here for too long, and our time is fast spent today. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us today in the studio.
Thank you for having me. It's
and one last word and advice to our viewers.
Yes, please.
Please, can you give them an advice?
Yes.
And one advice to the viewers and to the government. Stuck around.
To developers, I want to. One thing that we want to be probing now, when we want to buy a plot of land, don't just go and you want to know what's the value of the land. You want to know. Of course, they say most people want to do a research to find out that the land is genuine, it doesn't have any encumbrances. One of the encumbrances, encumbrances now mostly legal issues.
Yes,
it's not double allocation and so on, that you don't go into litigation.
Yeah,
I want to tell you that there's an additional thing now to begin to probe when you want to buy. Probe the flood propensity of that area you want to buy. Particularly, like I said, particularly when you notice water bodies around the area you want to buy.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, viewers, for being with us on this episode of Construction Tech. We hope to see you same time next week. You can send in your comments on our number 0903-123-9999. Thank you so much for all the comments we received last week. I'm not able to read the comments today because you can see we had so much to talk about, but I promise you we're going to read some of those comments to you next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and bye.
Thank you very much.